Much like you boys and girls went crazy last night and destroyed every toy in this house, tonight we are talking about crazy nights. I'm as sane as they come.
I said you'll have fun, and I won't disappoint you.
Welcome, fellow Kiss fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the fun of being a Kiss fan, and not joking with that intro. Last night, Shandi went absolutely berserk and pretty much destroyed every toy we have in the dog toy basket. It was full moonish behavior, and they say it takes dogs like 4 months to feel absolutely comfortable in your house, and Thursday would have been 2 months here with Shandi, so maybe we're seeing some demonic personality come out of that wonderful dog. Speaking of demons, it's all for you, demon. Let's HOTFACE. HOTFACE tonight, egads would be a good word, because I have once again found myself in a poster hunt for a set of posters that I never thought I would be interested in, but tonight's topic kind of led me down that path, and then life is magical. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about tonight's topic of crazy nights. We're doing non-makeup episode tonight, but my HOTFACE is makeup and a poster collection, which I need a poster like I need a hole in the head. So posters are fun, and 2025 has been almost the year of posters. I just want to say, like, very, very, very good year, very blessed year, very fun year for poster collecting. And you know, I started that merch form poster checklist, and this isn't from merch forms, but it will be fun to collect, and a lot of history there, so we'll see how that goes. Leave your hot faces below and let's wax. We're certainly taking Wax Night back to high school tonight, because we are talking Crazy Nights, and we are doing a nerd review of Crazy Nights. I don't like album reviews. I don't like to review tracks and history and talk about the production and dates and all that. I like to keep things nerd here, so I'm keeping it very nerd, keeping it very nostalgic, keeping it very Wax Night. And Crazy Nights is probably the album I listen to the most before becoming a fan, because Dan Thompson, my mentor into this this Kiss game.
As far as I'm concerned, you and your deranged protege can run the catalog by yourselves.
Dan Thompson, my mentor into Kiss, had Crazy Nights on cassette. The Sunset Strip era of music. I spent a lot of time in Dan Thompson's Camaro, cruising the streets of St. Joe, and Crazy Nights was played a lot, because Sunset Strip era music was played a lot. Girls, 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 Boston, Third Stage, White Snake, Crazy Nights. I met Dan very early in life, probably around Huey Lewis and the News era. Sports is when we first met, and our first conversation was about Quiet Riot, Mama We're All Crazy Now video in my driveway. But Dan was an older kid, so he hung out with the older kids. I was 4 years younger than him, so I hung out with the younger kids. Around my 6th grade year, Dan and I kind of bonded over BMX, skateboards, and Motley Crue. And that developed like the best friend mentality. Brett Parker, my next door neighbor, was very close to me in elementary school, because he was only 2 years older than me. But as he went into high school, he and Danny started hanging out more, and then I was kind of like the third wheel of the friendship, and then like the Wax Night crew basically grew out of that. Danny, Brett, myself, and we always hung out, and this is before I was a Kiss fan. We always hung out and just listened to all of the great music of that Sunset Strip era, watched Headbangers Ball, but Crazy Nights was played a lot. Now, this album, Smashes, came out November 1988. I became a fan the winter of 1988, so Smashes was out, and one of the first albums I gravitated towards was Crazy Nights because I had so many memories of that record. And one reason I wanted to talk Crazy Nights tonight is a piece of like Crazy Nights era merch has come into the Wax Night house, and it's very close to my heart. I didn't have it back then, never even really knew it existed, but one of my very first pieces of merch ever was my very first Kiss magazine. Metal Madness presents The Might and Magic of Kiss, November 1989. That magazine is in my heart. Cliff notes, I learned all about the band from that record and really set me down the rabbit hole of this whole wonderful thing of being a Kiss fan. Tonight's Wax is Crazy Nights because I have received from the Kiss Museum a Crazy Nights era focused historical Kiss tribute magazine that is absolutely beautiful. I love this cover. I love the non-makeup era of Kiss. My favorite era of Kiss is the Revenge Alive 3 era. Not ashamed to admit it, but this magazine is super cool. Nice little picture of Bruce there on the back. But we will take a look at this magazine in its entirety at the end of this episode after we nerd wax Crazy Nights. And how I do these nerd wax reviews, it's kind of just 3 to 5 nerd points about the record that I love. Let's first start with the cassette tapes. I want to say this is Dan's cassette tape from the high school days, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe it is that. And the fun thing about this is it has the Exposed ad. There is the ad for Kiss Exposed. You could write in, send your $29.95 for a VHS of Kiss Exposed. And you know, I mentioned that Sunset Strip era, hanging out with Danny and Brett, BMX, skateboards. Exposed was watched a lot, and my goodness, this era is just so fantastically fun. It is odd to think that Exposed is really a marketing tool for Asylum. Asylum was already out, Exposed came after, so it's kind of weird to have the Exposed ad in Crazy Nights. Asylum was released September 85, Exposed was released May 87, and Crazy Nights released September 87, but Exposed has no Crazy Nights songs on it. So it's weird to think that a kid not familiar with the past, like me, would buy Crazy Nights on cassette, see the Exposed ad, and think, hey, maybe I'm gonna see some Crazy Nights videos on that VHS, and you're not. Nerd fun. That's why we do these nerd reviews. And I do remember also in the 8th grade, 87-88, spending the night at David Hathaway's house with Chad Buford, myself, David Hathaway, and we all brought cassettes over. And I think I brought Aerosmith Permanent Vacation, and somebody bought Crazy Nights, because I do remember we had a long discussion on how ridiculous Paul Stanley's underpants looked. I get what he was trying to do, but it is kind of gross. I am big on the high school versions of CDs. These CDs released in the late 80s with the black hair and just the No Thrills CD disc itself. This was my high school version when I started collecting that back catalog on CD. This is the CD I bought of Crazy Nights. Have had it since then, and this has been played in every car, home, room I've ever lived in. Love this record, and I'll tell you why. Left the following statement on a comment of Kiss Army Things video one day when they were talking about Crazy Nights, and I got a lot of heat on that comment from one viewer. Pretty much told me I'm an idiot and whatever. I love side 2 of this record. To me, and again, probably gonna get a lot of heat for saying it here, but this Crazy Nights side 2 is the perfect ending of any Kiss record. I'm not a huge fan of When the Walls Come Down, but Reason to Live, Good Girl Gone Bad, Turn on the Night, and Thief in the Night are the perfect fade out of any side of any Kiss record. Side 2 is the perfect way to end it. Reason to Live is just such a beautiful song, such an awesome power ballad. Quite possibly the best Kiss power ballad ever. I do like Forever a lot, but quite possibly I would say Reason to Live is the greatest power ballad of the Sunset Strip era. You're All I Need by Motley Crue is very good. Home Sweet Home is good, but Reason to Live is magical. Good Girl Gone Bad is just the perfect 80s sleazy Gene, and I love it. Turn on the Night. You will never find a better hook in a song ever. That is a cruising at night with your windows down, spring, amazing song. Turn on the Night is that leaving the senior parking lot of high school, windows down, cranking a kick-ass rock and roll song. I know I sound very 80s. I graduated 92, so the 80s were still in flow. We hadn't gone full grunge yet. Turn on the Night, amazing song. Deep in the Night, one of the greatest Gene compositions ever. Wendy O. Williams' version, I like Gene's version. Who doesn't love the
You're welcome.
And speaking of looks, I can't really show the back photo of Crazy Nights because that's the dreaded Paul panty shot. But I will say Crazy Nights era had the coolest Gene and Paul look of the non-makeup era. Asylum was cool. I love the fluorescent colors. I love Paul's gloves and that jacket. Gene, not so much during Asylum. Just couldn't pull it off. Crazy Nights, they both tuned in to how you should look in that Sunset Strip era. They looked larger than life, but also classy. And the magazine we will look at tonight, at the end here, has a perfect example of that in a fold-out. First off, for me, how cool is that poster inside this magazine? Disco era Wax Night fun. But that is what we're talking about. That is cool ass Gene and Paul right there. Very cool looking, very Sunset Strip era glam rock. I love it. They look freaking cool, and they looked very cool in Crazy Nights, very cool in Hot in the Shade era and Alive 3 era. Paul looked really cool Alive 3 era. Gene, felt like he was trying too hard, but Crazy Nights, they nailed it. And also, because I'm not going to talk over the magazine when we look at this, I do want to show one last thing I love about this magazine. It has a Crazy Nights promo ad in it. How fun is that? I love me some promo ads. Discography pages and promo ads. Some of the funnest stuff ever. Minus Paul's panty shot, everyone looks cool here. Minus that guy. Even Eric and Bruce. They just look so freaking cool. And I love the banana guitar. Bruce Kulick's solos. Again, Reason to Live. Bruce Kulick's solos took Kiss to a whole other level. This is my era, folks. This is when I came in, so this is my era. I stand by it. Crazy Nights also served as my first ever vintage hype sticker on an album, and this even has the store tag on it still. I assume this was a Christmas gift. There is the hype sticker promoting Crazy Crazy Nights, Reason to Live, and Turn on the Night, and then the sticker is from Venture. You guys remember Venture Store? It's from Venture, and the reason I assume this was a Christmas or a birthday gift, the price has been marked out. So somebody got this beauty for a gift, and that would have been some fun 1987 joy. 2 more points and I'll let you go enjoy your weekend and talk bad about me because I said that about Bruce. On vacation one time in Minneapolis, I went to a record store by myself and found the Crazy Crazy Nights 12-inch single. Has Crazy Crazy Nights, No No No, Lick It Up, and All Night. Because Creatures of the Night was released in 1982, I will say of the non-makeup era, it's the greatest album cover of the non-makeup era. I know a lot of people hate this album cover, but to me it is just so cool. I love it. It would look great on a shirt. It would look great on a poster. Somewhere I do have the Crazy Nights promotional poster. We're going to have to pull that out. But this is my all-time favorite non-makeup album cover, and this is why I am dying for a Kiss Online re-release with the Mylar cover. If you could feel all that shattered glass raised from the album cover, my goodness, I will be all over that and celebrating that from the top of the mountains. And I do have it, ladies and gentlemen. I do have a Crazy NITE
Excuse me while I whip this out.
promo poster. How fun is that? Bruce and Eric, and then the bottom, Paul, Gene, and there it says available on compact disc, chrome cassettes, and record. So this may have to go up in the non-makeup wing of the Wax Night basement. I have a really fun Smashes promo poster that we've talked about before, but the thing is freaking huge. I don't know how I would ever frame that, and I can't do the high school thumbtacks anymore. I wish I could, but I just can't. Collector's etiquette as you grow older. There you go, a little Wax Night nerd fun focused on Crazy NITEs. One of my favorite non-makeup records. Ooh, that's a tough one to pick, to list, to rank the non-makeup albums. Favorite to least. That's a tough one. That might, I hate ranking episodes, but that might have to be something we look at because I feel like that one shifts all the time. But anyway, thank you for joining me in this nerd fun. Leave your thoughts and comments below on Crazy NITEs. Things you remember from the era, things you love about the record, things you hate about the record. And let's wax in those comments some non-makeup 80s fun. Like clockwork, everyone is napping. Thank you for hanging with us tonight and waxing a little rock and roll nostalgia with us here in the Wax Night house. Be good to your babies. Spay, neuter, microchip. Take care, be safe. We will talk to you soon.